This is Tuning Into Sci-Fi TV, the viewer's guide to genre television for the weeks of April 5th to April 20th, 2025. Hey everybody, welcome back. I'm Brent Barrett.
I'm Kevin Batchelder.
So that makes me Wendy Hembrock.
And we are back after only a 1 week break this time. Guys, we're getting better. We want to remind you again about our Discord. It's a great place to hang out with the community in case you want to chat with each other about stuff. There's a lot of great topics there. We put up a poll, like we try to do, at least one per every podcast we record. And this time we asked you, what were your thoughts about Daredevil Born Again? And we even reminded people they could come back and change their answer as the finale aired, because this poll was originally posted a couple days before the finale aired. And it's interesting that we got, I would say the majority of people said they hadn't seen it but want to see it. I mean, not the majority. The biggest winner of the poll is people who said that they hadn't seen it but they want to see it. But if you combine that with people who thought it was okay or better, that's a good majority of the voters. Only 6% of people said they did not like it, and only 24%, so combined about 30%, 24% said they don't watch it, they didn't watch it, and they don't plan to watch it. So the only negativity is about 30%. So 70% is either okay or loved it, and I think the bulk of that is okay. People aren't saying it's great, but it was okay, and I'm one of those, actually.
Yeah, if you want to spin it another way, only 18% said they liked it or loved it. So I guess all in how you cut up the numbers.
Yeah, and I'm one of those people who also said it was okay, but I can't say I loved it, and I'm hoping for much better in the next season.
I was looking for the silver lining, Kevin. I mean, I went for,
I know.
Here are the people who didn't like it, and here are all the people who either liked it or didn't care.
That's why I say when you got a poll, a good one like this, it's got like 7 different choices. It's like, okay,
yeah.
what position do I want to back up?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was glad to see there was a lot of people who, weren't totally negative on it, though, who watched it.
And nobody hated it. Yeah, nobody. That's good. Although I would probably count the people who didn't watch it and never want to watch it as maybe early haters, pre-haters, but we'll never know. Well, let us know on the Discord, actually. All right. With that said, and there is a link to the Discord in our show notes. It's free, guys. Check it out. We're going to head on over now to the spoiler-free water cooler.
Bounty hunting is a complicated profession. Don't you agree?
It is a time of restoration. The Empire has fallen, and the new Republic begins to establish peace throughout the galaxy. But in the far reaches of the Outer Rim, where lawlessness and corruption still exist, a lone gunfighter emerges. Join Cyber Ren and Dee Vizsla as they track the adventures of the Mandalorian. This is the Mandalore Podcast.
First up on the water cooler, we have quick reviews for the shows that we watched between April 5th and April 20th of 2025. And first up is that aforementioned Daredevil Born Again, which did have its season finale. We have episode 8 of season 1, Isle of Joy, and episode 9 of season 1, Straight to Hell, which was a season finale. I would give the first episode a watch it soon, but I'd say for the finale, I'll go high watch it soon. I can't quite go into the watch it now realm, and I'll tell you why later in the back porch.
For me, I would say let it sit and a low watch it soon.
Oh, I would go with watch it soon and high watch it soon.
All right, cool. That's exactly what I had. Awesome. All right. Moving on to Ghosts, which is our sitcom, our genre. Ours is genre. I was going to say genre adjacent, but it's just genre sitcom that we all love around here. We've got 2 episodes. Episode 18 of season 4, Smooching and Smushing. And if you've seen the episode, you get that reference. And episode 19 of season 4, Pincus Returns. I'd give the first one a high watch it soon. I really enjoyed it. The second one, just a watch it soon.
I enjoyed both quite a bit. I'd give them both high watch it soon.
Yeah, I'm with Kevin. I would give them both high watch it soon.
All right, and we also have Surreal Estate. And we've got 2 episodes as well. Episode 2 of season 3, Night Terrors. And episode 3 of season 3, Death Does a Refi? I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that right, Kevin, but I did not watch it.
Yeah, that's a financial term.
It's a refi.
Yeah, refi.
I just got
Being in real estate, yeah. I only saw the first one, and I'd say a very low watch it soon.
I saw them both, and I would say they're both low watch it soon.
All right, The Wheel of Time. We have a couple of episodes, including the season finale. I was about to say series, it's not. Episode 7 of Season 3, Golden Eyes, and Episode 8 of Season 3, He Who Comes with the Dawn. And I have not quite caught up. I'm into Season 3, but I didn't finish catching up before this, so I can't rate them.
Yeah, came out and finished strong. I would go low watch it now and watch it now.
I agree. I would say low watch it now and watch it now.
Awesome. Looking forward to it. Okay, we have Doctor Who. It's back for the quote-unquote Season 2. We all know it's like Season 30 or whatever. But Season 2 of Doctor Who on Disney+. Episode 1 of Season 2, The Robot Revolution. Episode 2 of Season 2, Lux. And I'm going to go ahead and give them both a watch it soon.
Oh, wow. I liked them more than Brent. That's a surprise. I would say for this one, I had a very solid watch it soon and then a very high watch it soon.
Yeah, I would go very solid watch it soon and maybe the same. High, solid, almost high.
Okay, so I agree with Wendy. That's cool. Kevin's just a little more enthusiastic. I guess we'll hear about that in the back porch as well. And we have the return of The Last of Us. The much anticipated show. We've got 2 episodes we're going to cover here because 2 aired before we started recording the podcast. We've got episode 1 of Season 2, Future Days, and episode 2 of Season 2, Through the Valley. I'm going to give the premiere a high watch it soon, but I'm only going to do that mostly because it's back and I really enjoyed it. It was a bit slow, but it was good. So I'm going to give it a high watch it soon. And the most recent episode, even though I don't like everything that happened in it, I'm going to give it a watch it now.
Yeah, episode 1, definitely not at its best for me or most enjoyable. But it was still a watch it soon. But yeah, that second episode, definitely a watch it now, especially for someone who had no idea what was coming.
Yeah, I agree. The first episode was table setting. I would still give it a high watch it soon. And episode 2 is definitely watch it now.
Excellent. We'll talk about that in the back porch as well. Okay. Well, before we start talking about news that we think you might like, we've got a voicemail from Craig in Pennsylvania, and he wanted to talk about a bunch of stuff, including the show Paradise and our live show.
Love your live show. I wish I had reminders on. I'd subscribe to all. So hopefully I catch you guys live and comment along. Just want to tell you guys about a show that you might be missing out on. Only launched 2 episodes so far. Paradise on ABC. Definitely, it's a mystery show about the end of the world, kind of, with a twist. Don't want to give away the twist. You'll find that out basically episode 1. Has Sterling K. Brown, Sarah Sahi from what the hell is that show that she was on? You guys will know. James Morrison. Anyway, it's a pretty cool show with the sci-fi bend, and I think you'll like it. Hopefully I hear about it on the next show if you check it out. Again, live show. Give us some updates about when that comes out. And hopefully you get a bunch of guys joining in. I like to call in with accurate information, and I feel a fool. Called in about Paradise on ABC, thinking this is a nice, cool show. It's a nice, cool show that's been on Hulu for I don't know how long. I just discovered it on ABC when I guess they started re-airing it. Now I'll binge it and see how the thing ends. But, I've had a TiVo as long as Wendy for almost 22 years. Different versions, obviously. But I normally know my streaming services and what's on, what's not. I use Just Watch. I normally don't get confused, but they got me. I got confused. Too much to watch, guys. And thanks for the tip on Bondsman on Prime. Love it. 2 episodes in. Really great show for Bacon. He's going to be awesome in it. And Bondsman live action. There's another Devil show, Devil May Cry on Netflix. That's good for 2 of you guys. It's animated. Very violent animation, awesome characters. You might want to give that a try unless that's been out for 5 years.
Hey, Craig, thanks so much for that. Yeah, you figured it out probably that Paradise had aired somewhere else. In fact, we've been talking about it on this podcast for a while. It's a show that my co-host did watch and enjoy. I still have not caught up because I watched the first couple episodes and just kind of fell off my radar. But I hear it gets better and it's a little more interesting. But so I might check it out. The Bondsman, I'm so glad you enjoyed that. It was a fun show. On the live show, it's a good advice to our listeners, if you're in our Discord, to go ahead and go to the announcements channel at the top and just right-click on that and tell it that you want to get notified on every post in that channel, because then you will at least get notified within Discord. If you don't, keep Discord up, I don't know if you can get those notifications any other way, but that's pretty much how we're announcing when the lives come up. We'll try to start announcing them on our podcast feed as well, or at least on our blog. So maybe if you get, notifications that way too, you'll be able to know in advance that we're doing a live show. But yeah, we are definitely announcing them ahead of time. So yeah, I would encourage everybody to try to tune in when we do those live shows. They're a lot of fun.
Great to hear from you again, Craig. Thank you very much for reaching out and no worries there as far as Paradise. As you pointed out, there are just so many shows on so many different services, and some of them, like this one, cross platforms as far as services. To when you see them, it's just good that we're all kind of keeping each other aware of what's out there. And the fact that we could make you aware of The Bondsman was the same idea. That thing kind of came across us last minute too. So there is just too much out there. And glad you're using Just Watch, because I use that extensively and it's a great tool. So that's good, both movies and shows. And as Brent said too, I discovered on if you are on the Discord and you do turn on those notifications, I think the default settings is also that you will get an email as well. I mean, you can change those settings. You can turn off email notifications if you don't want them, but I found it handy to maybe not just on our Discord, but on others I'm a part of, but don't visit very often. Those notifications sometimes are helpful so I don't miss things.
Craig, nice to hear from you. It'd be great if you could drop into our live show in the future. We are going to try to, as Brent mentioned, post on the blog itself too, but just given our schedules, it's only going to be a couple of days notice probably. Sorry about that, but we're kind of opportunistic about when we can do the lives. And thanks for your comments about Paradise. At first, when you said ABC, I was shaking my head a little bit. But actually, it's great that they were able to sort of cross-pollinate it over to ABC and hopefully get a bigger audience. This is a show I think Kevin and I liked. I know I liked it, but it's very genre light. But I liked the characters, so it was sufficient for me. And as a TiVo user, I completely understand not knowing when something's on or where it's going to show up in your queue. Still love the TiVo, but I do use my Roku a lot more these days as well. So great to hear from you. Thank you.
And now on to some news that we think you all might enjoy. First up, Kevin's got some great news for The Last of Us.
I do. They announced I think it was the day before season 2 premiered that it has officially been renewed for a season 3. Certainly not a shocker based on its popularity and visibility, but nice to know that officially, once season 2 does finish out, because it's only 7 episodes, so we've already seen 2 of the 7, that there will be a season 3. Obviously, no details yet on when it's going to be shot or aired or any of that, but it's definitely coming back for a season 3.
Well, I wasn't surprised at this news because we know that it's 3 games, so 3 seasons sounds about right, and it feels like they're not going to get greedy unless they do a spin-off or something afterwards, but I'm glad because I'm liking the story in season 2, and then hopefully if it is going to be just a 3-season show, it'll wrap things up in a nice way.
Yeah, somebody familiar with the games, this actually was a surprise for me because there's only 2 games, and there's been rumblings of a 3rd game maybe being made, but no word on that for sure. So that we got a season 3 is pretty interesting. But you all, listeners of tuning into Sci-Fi TV, know what that means, right? And when it gets renewed at the beginning of the season, they were already filming season 3. They were filming 2 and 3 probably bundled together. So they just held off to get more promotion for the show. When it premiered, or right before it premiered, they announced, hey, we're going to renew it for season 3. It's so great. But no, that's pretty cool. There's a lot of speculation that they're going to split the second game's storyline between these 2 seasons, season 2 and season 3. because there's a lot that happens in the second game. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be interested to see where they do the break, but I'll watch it. I'm here for it.
They did mention in the article that the showrunners said that they were going to need more than one season to cover the events of the second game.
Yeah, and I thought there were 3.
It's a natural thing to assume if you're not familiar with the games, actually. So, just like Game of Thrones, you might assume there were 7 books, right? But there aren't. Yeah, right?
there are not. There never will be. That will be a series that will never be finished.
Yeah. Okay. Well, going on to another series, Mayfair Witches. Wendy's got some news.
Yeah. So this is AMC's show, which AMC is all in on Anne Rice's Immortals universe, and Mayfair Witches has been renewed for a season 3. They've also added another co-showrunner who came from Breaking Bad, which was a great AMC series. And season 3, they've revealed, is going to be a contemporary retelling of Salem. So that sounds pretty interesting. If I had AMC, I would probably be watching this. I would be very happy to hear from any listeners that have been watching this show. But definitely AMC is still all in on Anne Rice.
Yeah, that's really interesting about the contemporary Salem. When I first saw the headline, I thought to myself, are they doing like a time travel episode? Are they going back in time or something? So, yeah, it's a show that I have not caught up. I don't think I've even watched one episode, to be honest with you, although it's up to season 3 now. So maybe I should check it out. I don't know. Anybody out there listening to this or in our Discord community who has seen Mayfair Witches, let us know if it's worth it.
Yeah, I haven't watched either. I mean, the trailer did look interesting, but it's definitely one I'd rather hear what our audience says.
I mean, I know Interview with the Vampire Watchers have been really liking that, but I haven't heard anything about Mayfair Witches.
Opportunity. Get on Discord. Let us know. All right. I'm going to talk a little bit about The Librarians. Remember, we talked about this thing called The Next Chapter. Well, there's a trailer out with a premiere date for The Librarians, for the return of the show that we enjoyed quite a bit on this podcast. And it's going to be returning to TNT, at least in the U.S., on Sunday, May 25th with a 2-night premiere. And this trailer kind of introduces you to all the cast, the main cast. And one thing I gathered from it, apart from the fact that it seems to have the same sort of feel of the original Librarians, is I thought it was kind of interesting and pleasurable to see that we have somebody with a British accent who is the lead, apparently, in the show, and is not a supporting character and not a villain. We're so used to the people with the British accent either being the supporting character or the villain. Nice to have this character be the lead. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, we've been saying for months, since we first heard about this, a little trepid, a little concerned, because enjoying the first, The Librarian show so much was, could they live up to it or make it enjoyable enough in its own way? So it was great to have the first real trailer, and I felt good. I mean, it seems like we've got some interesting folks here. As Brent mentioned, a 2-night premiere. They're doing like an episode on Sunday and then Monday, and then I think it's going to fall into a regular Monday airing time there on TNT. So, end of May, we've only got, a little over a month from the time we're recording this. So, hey, fingers crossed it turns out to be enjoyable. I'm not expecting it to be as good as, but just its own thing, hopefully, and a good set of characters there.
Yeah, I was happy to see, a proper trailer. We got a sense for sort of who are the archetypal kind of characters amongst the crew. That felt very Dean Devlin to me. And like to see we definitely have a librarian and a guardian. It was nice to see Christian Kane might be our sort of bridge between the old show and the new. I'll probably need an episode or 2 to see if there's chemistry amongst the characters and which ones sort of pop out, but it was pretty promising for sure.
Yep. We'll find out. And also we'll find out about this new show, or some of us will find out about this new show called Murderbot, and Kevin's got some details about that.
And by details, we mean we've got our official trailer from Apple TV, just over 2 minutes long. This is the show that's premiering on May the 16th. And it's the one that based on a book, and the lead is played by Alexander Skarsgård. From some of the info I had seen, and my apologies if I didn't get a good amount of info, I thought this would be a little more serious. This trailer has got a good amount of humor in it, I gotta say. That got me a little more interesting to see. Not that I don't like a good serious show, of which Apple TV has several in the sci-fi area, but so I don't know. I gotta say my interest went up a bit based on this trailer. Again, I don't currently have Apple TV, but there is a decent discount promo code thing going out there from Apple TV. Get your first couple of months for like $3, so maybe I'll jump in soonish. But this looked interesting.
Yeah, to me, this still looks fun. Previously, I was intrigued, mostly because I loved Alexander Skarsgård in True Blood, and him playing a robot who maybe has some issues going on. Certainly naming itself Murderbot is maybe a red flag. It looks like the crew might be really interesting. It definitely had more humor than the first trailer that we saw. So I'm definitely looking forward to it. And May looks like it's going to have a bunch of fun stuff coming.
Yeah, it's great to see one of our favorite Skarsgårds come back to the screen. But the trailer looks fun, looks interesting. Wish I had Apple TV Plus. Apparently there is some sort of promotion going on right now, but I don't know if there will be in time or when I want to watch this show. So I don't know when I'll see it, but it looks fun. All right. And Wendy's got some news about another show that we saw that, gosh, was this last on the air like 20 years ago? Called The Sandman. Apparently there's another season, right, Wendy?
There is. It's actually going to be the final season, and it's going to be split in two. Sandman, it's called Volume 1, will premiere July 3rd. And if you follow the link in the show notes, you'll see a proper trailer. Dream is prominently featured, which is the central character, and some other characters folks will recognize. It honestly, I can't remember where it left off. It definitely was like 2 years ago, maybe even 3. I'm not sure. It was a while ago. I'll probably have to do one of my fast rewatches or watch the season finale of the prior season to get ready for this one. But for folks who enjoyed this universe, it will hopefully be a satisfying conclusion.
Yeah, I joke about 20 years ago, of course, but it's one thing, a trend I just don't like in the industry right now, where they wait so long between seasons on things that you kind of forget it even. Sometimes you even forget it was on the air at all. And then when you're reminded of that, you're like, oh, yeah, well, what happened? And then you have to go watch some summary or skim through the episodes or something. So, the trailer reminded me of the feel of the show, absolutely. And some of the characters. But again, I'm with you, Wendy. I don't know what happened. I'm going to need to catch up.
Yeah, this wasn't a show that I watched for season 1. I know there's some folks who definitely enjoyed it, but it quickly ran through my head as you're both pointing out, knowing it had been quite a while since season 1 aired, but the fact they're going to split it a little bit, maybe it's like, oh, okay, at least folks who are fans, you got a couple of months here. Maybe there's enough time to rewatch season 1.
Yeah, it's going to be the long, slow goodbye.
Yep. All right. Well, moving on. I have some news about Star Trek Strange New Worlds. The season 3 is coming. We know that. We've been seeing teasers and little trailers and things for a while now. But we now have a date when it's first going to be seen by humans who aren't part of Paramount. And that's going to be at the Tribeca Film Festival in 2025, which is, of course, this year. On June 14th, they will have a world premiere there at the Tribeca Festival for people that are in attendance. And then I suppose that means sometime, maybe within a week, we're kind of guessing after that, the rest of us will be able to see it. So I guess look forward to it around June 20th, 21st, somewhere around there. But it's good to know that somebody's going to start seeing it pretty soon. I love that show.
Yeah, this was one of those where there was a bit of excitement for me when I first saw something and then realized, oh, okay, it's only limited. And we don't have the, shall we say, air date or release date yet. We last heard officially summer. So like Brent said, I think our guess is within a week or 2 weeks of that Tribeca screening. Will we get it, on Paramount Plus for the rest of us? But good that there's a date there. Probably be fun to see some at least spoiler-free reviews or thoughts once it, comes out there. So this is just good because this is definitely going to be, Strange New Worlds will be one of my summer highlights for sure.
I am so happy for Strange New Worlds that they're going to have a premiere at the Tribeca Film Festival. That is a really interesting thing. So, one, it makes me have very high hopes for the cinematic quality of that premiere. And also, it's great promotion to reach people who will probably like the show, but maybe haven't found the show yet. So that would be cool too if we had, even more expansion of the audience. So, as Kevin mentioned, I'm definitely hoping within a week of the Tribeca premiere, we get this on regular Paramount Plus. That would be great.
Yeah, and harkening back to something I said earlier, I don't know if it's a sign of how much I like Strange New Worlds or the fact that it wasn't off the air for so long, but I actually do remember how the season ended, the big cliffhanger from last season, from season 2. So, yeah, definitely looking forward to where they pick up, although they have kind of spoiled a bit of it already in the trailers, so we're not that much on pins and needles anymore. Boy, that would hurt if we were on pins and needles for this long, though.
I've actually been rewatching Strange New Worlds the last season, and it's been so enjoyable.
Oh, I got to go back and rewatch that one episode with Kirk and what's her name? That one.
With the reality. Security officer. I just watched that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a great episode. I loved it. All right, moving on. Kevin, you've got some news about Light and Magic.
Yeah, then this, I guess we put kind of in our genre adjacent, or maybe more correctly, our behind-the-scenes content that folks might enjoy. Light and Magic, for those of you who don't know, is as I said, a behind-the-scenes look at ILM, Industrial Light and Magic, the company that, George Lucas and many others made famous for all their work on visual effects and special effects and everything else. Disney Plus had a season 1 back in 2022. I think it was about 6 episodes looking at some of the work they had done in various movies, obviously starting with Star Wars, and going from there. And this, just a couple of days ago from when we're recording this here in April, they have a season 2 out. It's only 3 episodes this time, but each of those episodes is close to an hour or more, looking at late 90s into the 2000s for some of the work they did, not only on the prequels, Star Wars prequels, but many other well-known movies and shows that I suspect almost everyone in our audience has seen at least one of, from Pirates of the Caribbean, to the Star Wars, as we said, films, to so many more. So I found it very enjoyable and really interesting. While, George Lucas is in here a bit, this is much more about the other people that helped to create the different things that have gone on the visual side in movies. The move to digital and everything else. So I find it very interesting. That's why I wanted to mention it here, folks. If you enjoy those kind of things, as we always say, the bonus features or things like that, these go very deep on a lot of what went into those films and some of the advancements they made, and all. And it's really, like I said, I'm sure we've all been touched by some of this stuff. In terms of our enjoyment of film, certainly sci-fi and fantasy and other things along those lines over the years. So good stuff.
Yeah, this is good stuff. I haven't watched it yet, but just from the trailer, I was very intrigued and a little bit surprised, I have to say, that they decided to go out on the limb and talk about Phantom Menace so much, and be honest about the backlash and the reaction to it. So I'm definitely curious to see more.
Yeah, when you first let us know about this, I think earlier today, or maybe it was last night, I don't remember exactly when it came in, Kevin, got me excited. Yeah, this is something I'm going to go check out. It's a quick little watch, so I'm interested in the behind the scenes stuff and the technology it's being used to put together the shows that we really like. So sounds cool to me.
Yeah, and I really found it fascinating too. As I said, we've all probably seen such big blockbusters, the prequels and some of those other films. But for a lot of the other movies, just some of the visuals that they had to create and the amount of work that went into doing some of those things, some that had water-based things or that impacted, going to complete digital characters for some of these films, like the ones that weren't animated and other things, and just how creative folks had to be to actually make that happen. And the impact on several of the directors and filmmakers who, once they realized what ILM could now do, how much that impacted some of the stories they could tell and such. So that's why I say I really enjoyed these.
Yeah, it's always interesting to me when you hear folks talk about, the problem or the constraint and then how they bring their creativity to resolve it.
Completely virtual characters in non-animated shows, and Wendy said they're talking about Phantom Menace. Are we talking about Jar Jar Binks here?
Jar Jar is certainly in here, but he's not the only one.
He's in there, but they're talking about the little green guy. And I don't mean Kermit.
Okay.
So it's covering a wide span, not just Phantom Menace. Okay.
Oh yeah,
no, there
it
is
covers
some
all
good
of Star
discussion
Wars.
about when you got Yoda fighting and the pressure that they were under to actually make that work.
Yeah, sounds like interesting stuff. All right, well, let's head on to some casting news that Wendy's got for us.
Yeah, so still in our Star Wars world, I got some news about Ahsoka Season 2. Christian Haydenson will be back as Anakin, presumably doing some more flashback training with Ahsoka, which will be awesome because the stuff we had in Season 1 was great. And we also got a little bit of a tease out about Season 2. This was comments that were shared at the Star Wars Celebration in Tokyo this past weekend. And one of the things that Dave Filoni hinted at was that there's going to be some big battle. We're going to get more Ezra Bridger and Hera as well, which is all good news. And of course, we're getting Rory McCann coming in to fill in the shoes that he needs to fill for Ray Stevenson, who passed away. He'll play Baylan Skoll. So good stuff coming for Ahsoka. No timing yet on when it will be coming out. It will be 8 episodes. And it's about to start filming, so no release date yet.
Christian Haydenson. I like that new name you coined for Hayden Christensen. I'm going to use it.
Oh, thank you.
No, but it's good to know. I mean, I think we all kind of figured he'd be back. We kind of figured all of this stuff. We of course heard about the recasting a little while ago, and I think we reported it on the podcast when it happened. But I'm excited to see that that this will be coming back to our screens soon enough so that I still remember how the last season ended. That's my new measure of whether or not a show comes back in time or whether or not I care about it enough to remember. Do I know what happened last season?
On that vein, I'd like to claim it's because these things are too far apart, but I think part of that is also my aging memory. But we won't go there. No, casting-wise, this makes sense based on where the story was, and this could create some interesting stuff. I mean, I think that was part of what for Ahsoka was some interesting things. Certainly for me, was seeing some of that stuff with Vader at that age. So yeah, this is a good thing, I think.
All right. Well, with that good news, we're going to go to some news that's a little bit more surprising and scary to those of us who really like physical media, and that is an article we're going to link to in the show notes, telling us that the sales of DVDs and Blu-rays combined, so physical media, has dropped 90% in the last little over 10 years, since 2014. Apparently, this is being attributed to the large number of U.S. households, especially, who are cutting the cord, as it were, and going to streaming services where they can see a lot of things they want to see, but those of us who have been looking for that, watching Continuum on our favorite service or watching this particular movie that we used to love are realizing is that they're not available all the time. And usually if it's not on your streaming service, it's available on Amazon for purchase, but that's about the only way you can get it digitally. So anyway, this article does a great job of breaking down year by year over the last 10 years and showing that it's pretty much a steady drop. Apparently, sales used to be $10.1 billion in the U.S. on physical media, and it's dropped down to about $900 million, so under $1 billion now. So it's a pretty dramatic drop, like I said, over 90%. And so I like to, on the Discord, we were chatting about this, and one thing I said is that people who rely on the streaming services to get what they want, they want to see whenever they want to see it, have to remember, think back to the analogy of a library, right? You get a library card, say you don't buy books and don't have your own, library in your home of the books you like, and you use your library card to go, read all the books that you want to read. You may not find the book you want in the library, or you may see a book there and say, I'll come back to that next year. And then maybe their only copy is gone. That's exactly how it's working with streaming services. It's just like the library card in the library. If you really want these things, you got to buy it yourself, and you got to have physical media. So I really hope that this doesn't mean the costs. I know the costs are going up. I've been trying to collect some digital or some physical media that I've been missing, and oh boy, is it expensive. I hope it doesn't mean it's going to get even more expensive, but I suspect it will, since the demand is low. What happens to the economy if you took basic economics.
Yeah, this was an article in the sense that not a surprise to any one of us on this podcast, or I suspect almost all our listeners. It just raw numbers backing it up, but it is, as Brent pointed out, it's that reality of stepping back and realizing that, streaming is great. It really is. There's lots to like about it. But as far as, being able to want to watch something this moment, not guaranteed, and may not be even in the format that you might recall. As we know, some movies get edited based on content that's allowed on some of these platforms, so it may not be in its original form. Putting up with ads or commercials on some of these providers when there's no choice. So it's the changing world out there, but it is definitely tough, as Brent said, on some of those things you do want to get. It now means they are likely going to be even more expensive to get your hands on it.
Yeah, this is interesting because when I was reading this article, I was wondering if these physical DVDs will sort of find a similar floor to vinyl records, right? So vinyl records has a niche amongst audiophiles who, they feel the difference in terms of what people often describe as the warmth of vinyl records, and just the sound quality. And it sure sounded like maybe cinephiles who want that movie quality experience at home. There'll always be folks in that category. Not sure how many. The other thing that I was thinking about was, what's your criteria for having that physical DVD? Is it something you have just because you love it and you're going to watch it over and over? Or if you think about, stranded on a desert island, what 3 DVDs would you have? And if you have the luxury of storage for it. My concern and problem with DVDs is they don't keep up with the technology potentially to play them back. I have DVDs that I can't play on my current DVD player. The quality degrades over time. So if only they had the same shelf life as a physical book, maybe I would have more of them, because I do actually have a lot of physical books.
That's a really good point. We who love physical media love to have our collection, and so we can go back to it any time. But it won't last forever. I mean, it lasts. DVDs, Blu-rays are going to last longer probably than VHS tapes do. But they do have a shelf life. So yeah, that is a very good point. And I hope it doesn't become as niche as vinyl records. So hopefully it's a little more common like CDs, if I use the analogy of music and albums. I hope. I don't want to have to spend $200 for a season of a show, Oh, yeah. I mean, I think vinyl records have kind of been slowly creeping up. Maybe it's stabilized now because there was sort of
baby boomers who remember records from when they were younger, but there's also a whole younger generation that's into vinyl too.
Yeah, I should bring up something that Kevin and I are probably aware of that other people may not be. But yes, I'm bringing up The Warning again. The Warning, the musical group, they release their stuff on vinyl as well as CD, as well as digital. And they themselves are vinyl collectors, and they're Gen Zers, and they just are just in love with the music industry and earlier rock, and so they just fell in love with vinyl, and it's amazing how many bands are still releasing stuff on vinyl, including The Warning. Like I said, they're still putting out vinyl records. It doesn't hurt that a lot of their fans are, Gen X, baby boom, and they like their vinyl too. All right. We're going to wrap up the water cooler with a tuner minute. This one was recorded by Kevin, and it's entitled, Just Watching It Isn't Enough. Sorry, Kevin, I screwed up your title there.
So the recent finales for shows like Daredevil and The Wheel of Time, don't worry, no spoilers, had me scurrying to watch videos and read articles for different reasons. And doing that got me also thinking that it seems like, certainly in recent years, like almost every show that we're now watching is based on a book or based on a game or comes with some adaptation of a comic book. The idea of a story or a show that is just based on its own creative idea has kind of become extinct. It's pretty rare. When I looked at all of shows that are on our tuner calendar for the first 6 months or so of this year, I think The Bondsman was the only one I saw that wasn't either a continuing season of an already existing show or something based on another property. So is this a good thing? Do you folks find that it's good that you either are comparing something to its previous iteration, maybe as a book or comic, or need to go deeper to learn more about it, so therefore you're watching videos or reading articles? In other words, have we got to the point where just watching it isn't enough anymore?
That's an interesting question. Because I thought your tuner minute was going in a slightly different direction. Because after a season finale, I often do go look at recaps if I haven't been following some along all the way through the season. Sometimes I'll go listen to a whole podcast maybe that was doing deep dives, but I don't do that sort of in season very much these days. But I might be sort of missing the show early or, super heightened interest in the show at the finale. So then I kind of go out and seek a lot of that bonus material like you're talking about. The reason, though, for me that explains why everything's based on something else is because that's just a risk mitigation for the, tens to hundreds of millions of dollars these companies are sinking into these properties that they're thinking, well, if it had an audience as a book or a comic or a video game, then we've got a shot for, at least that audience plus more. Because you mentioned The Bondsman, and to me, the risk mitigation of The Bondsman was Kevin Bacon, right? He was responsible for developing that property as well. So he was assuming a lot of the risk, but he was also banking on his own brand as the attraction, which I think is a good bank, a good assumption. So I'm more curious how we get sort of original things coming over, original stories, and maybe it might be not just those other, books and comics and those kinds of things, but foreign language properties that then get reimagined is American or in English. We've definitely had a bunch of those as well, but I think as long as there's, a ton of money involved, there has to be some way to mitigate the risk if you are going to go for something really creative, to give people some level of comfort that they're rolling the dice and going to have a good outcome.
Yeah, is it a good thing? Yes and no. Yes and maybe. I want to have the best of both worlds here. I want to have both because I, as somebody who is excited by stories and universes I found in video games or somebody who's found them in comics or anything, you want that stuff to have new life and to be exposed to new people who might also be excited by it. So in that sense, it's a good thing that I'll say Hollywood, but you know what I mean. The industry is seeking proven successful material without having to risk creating something original. But I also really like the original stuff because how else are we going to get really cool stuff that we haven't seen before? Even though, the curmudgeon in me might argue that most of the stuff we see, we've seen before in some other form. Even the Bondsman, we've had a couple of shows like that, but still, it's taking a chance on something that, while yes, Wendy's right, they're saying, well, we got a lead star, a big star, a big name person here, who will draw people to watch it, which it did do. Let's be honest. It's still really cool to see some things that are a little original. I think when he's on it, though, it really is Hollywood is business. We've talked about that over and over and over again and over years on this podcast. And they want to have the highest, lowest risk, highest potential return on investment. How do they do that? Well, they make things that they know people like already. How do you do that? Well, you go look at other media. So it makes total sense that they're doing it. It's just sad that we don't get the really original stuff. So I think the only hope we have is that people who have made it in the industry either become, with fame or with money, one or the other, or control or power, take a risk. Maybe Kevin Bacon took a big risk. Maybe he said, yeah, I like this story. I'm going to put my name on this and attach my name to it, and I'm going to be in it. And I think he was even a producer on it. And let's do this. Maybe we need more people like that who are willing to attach themselves to original stuff. Maybe they are also kind of tired of all the retreading of things, and they're going to do that. So gone are the days of, the struggling writer who wants to have a breakthrough or a breakout in Hollywood and has this great idea for this thing and tries to shop it around to the studios, and somebody says, well, we'll give you a chance, kid. That doesn't happen anymore, right? These writers tend to need to work on adapting existing properties or working in already existing and thriving universes like Marvel or something. And then they get a little bit of a resume built up, and then maybe once they've become successful, they can try to work with the contacts they have to maybe see if they can get something original in. Unfortunately, that's the way it's going, and I don't like it. I like having original stuff, but I also am a little bit selfish, Kevin. I also want the stuff that's from the other media that I enjoy. So yeah, I want my cake and I want to eat it too, Kevin.
Yeah, just from the comments of the two of you, it's obvious all these factors are going to play into what's happening, and even more so nowadays because yes, costs for things, let's face it, everything in life, but certainly where we're at in the U.S. for sure, escalating costs, as Wendy pointed out. It's a risk thing. It's just not worth it to go to something totally unknown, whether it's the property itself or maybe the actors who are chosen to be in it. And that's why something like The Bondsman with Kevin Bacon or whatever it might be. And it's also interesting to me too, because I've been rewatching the series on Netflix, The Movies That Made Us, which is, behind the scenes on lots of films, many of which were, low budget things that were lower risk that made it big, or some of those properties were situations where either the director had a big hit on a previous movie, so the studio is willing to give them more latitude to try something, or it had a big name star. And then they just happened to, between, solid writing and an ensemble, create something even better. So it's not like this is new, because that behind the scenes series is looking at films from the 70s and 80s. So that's, many years ago. So it's also interesting to me because part of what, and the reason I mentioned things like Daredevil or The Wheel of Time And I follow you, Brent, in the sense of, yes, if it's something I've got some familiarity with, that just makes me interested in it probably even more because I want to see how they adapt it, or is it as good as or better or whatever. And certainly the people creating these things aren't always as concerned about whether it's as good as whatever the original property was, because they just want to know that there's also lots of buzz around it, even if it's people hating on it, because it's just more fodder for conversation. More people are likely to hear about it, and that makes sense too. So I guess it's all part of it. And like you said, have the cake and eat it too. I'm okay with some of these things. It's just tough sometimes when you got to go looking to learn a little more about it to see why it happened. Because again, you got something like Wheel of Time, which I thought this season, and we'll talk in more detail back porch, was fantastic. But again, when you got a 15 book or so series, you can't cover everything. You got to leave things out. You got to combine characters and make changes. And if you're a big fan of that property now, you're not liking that maybe that's not covered there. And, even going back to, I'm drawing a blank now, Why the Last Man, that I had shockingly read that comic and loved it. And then the TV adaptation was horrible. So I know that other side of the fence where, being anticipating it and then having it go flat, makes me wish they hadn't even tried to make it. So yeah, it's this roller coaster bit. And I guess I'm just seeing it now a little more in focus this week recently with those finales getting me thinking about it, or like in the case of Daredevil, where there was so much previous stuff done that some of the, not so much recaps, but learning more about the business side about why they decided to basically restart the show. Again, business side completely. So us folks who wanted to see great creative stuff had to put up with another origin story, so to speak. So it's the nature of it. That's why it was interesting. So I'm curious if others have thoughts to share as well.
Yeah, I would be curious to hear some of our listener feedback on this one. As you were talking, I was thinking about, adaptations of things like Three Body Problem and stuff like that. And I'm happy to find those. And, we're getting, to me, a very original story and, finding an audience. And I don't consider that sort of a dilution of quality. I'd rather have that than, John Wick 47 or Fast and Furious 99, where it's not a departure at all. It's a retread of something. So, I was thinking about, your comment about Why the Last Man. And the one thing that I think about that is you still have that book and you still have whatever was that initial response to that material. Like, it doesn't get lost. It is disappointing when a show that, you hope is going to turn that story on the page visually into something comparable to what your mind created. And, that certainly happened with me with Kindred, which was a book that I really liked, and I thought the adaptation was horrible. So I get the disappointment, especially after, the season just ended and maybe it was great and you want more, or maybe it was really disappointing and you want to salve the wounded frustration when it doesn't live up to the expectation.
And then that just gets me thinking to things like Stephen King's The Stand. Loved that novel, read it multiple times, certainly when I was younger. And then when they did the TV miniseries version in the 90s, while not great, it was still quite entertaining. So when they came and did the series version a few years ago, I don't even remember which network it was, but again, it was on a major streaming service thing. I'm like, now they got to have a bigger budget and we can go to some of the darker storylines. And then that one just totally fell flat. So, like you said, sometimes and I was very excited for that. I reread the book and I rewatched that miniseries before it came. And then that's why maybe it was that extra disappointment, but maybe I should have been focused on the fact that at least I took the time to revisit the property that I greatly enjoyed.
Yeah, no, I remember that. I remember the disappointment we both had with the second telling, and definitely did not live up to its potential for me at all. It's funny, when you were talking about that, it made me just remember recently watching something. And as a teenager, I read a lot of Arthurian legend books, and there was something, it was Merlin actually with Sam Neill, and I guess it was like a mini series. It was like 2 episodes long, but I just happened to fall into part of it where the sword is going back to the Lady in the Lake, and it was like, oh my God, this is so horrible to watch, because the effects were bad and the costuming wasn't that great. And it was like, oh, it was so much better when I just read it than watched it on the screen.
That raises to my mind a related topic that you both have touched on, which is studio and network executives. When you get this great idea to reduce the risk by going with something that has a proven audience, maybe, and this is me directing this kind of at the people behind the Halo TV series, maybe try to understand why that thing was successful and try to be faithful to it. In reference to Kevin's talking about The Stand, because maybe the Halo video game series is really successful because people love the mythos of Master Chief, and so you probably don't want to screw with that character, which causes all the people who love the show to hate you. So I don't know. Pay more attention. Yeah, I understand why they want to reduce the risk, but don't monkey with it. If you're going to go with something that's proven, just go with it.
Yeah, I do think that if there's somebody in the business side who has a personal connection to the story, then they'll back it,
Yeah.
So I'm thinking of, The Expanse, right? Jeff Bezos loved The Expanse books, which was why, they finished telling the story despite the ratings.
Or Last of Us or Fallout. Both were made by people up at the top of those shows that had a connection to those source materials. And that's why they were so good.
Yep.
All right. Well, enough about us. You guys let us know. Discord's a great place to do it. We have a whole channel called Tuner Minute where you can talk to us about the most recent Tuner Minute. Or you can send us voicemail or email too. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this. We're going to head on over to the spoiler-filled back porch. Today we talk about The Last of Us, The Wheel of Time, Doctor Who, and Daredevil Born Again. First up, we're going to talk about The Last of Us, and now that the events of Episode 2, by the way, guys, we will be covering Episode 1 and 2 of Season 2, so if you haven't seen us, but you should have by the time this comes out, but if you haven't, as with all backport stuff, use caution. Use our time codes in the show notes to skip ahead. But now that the events of Episode 2 have happened, everybody who is on our Discord or YouTube probably are aware of what I have been hinting at for a while about how I kind of wish they would do something different than the video game did, but they did not. Apparently early in the second video game, again, I haven't played the second video game, but I'm aware, I've seen all the cutscenes and I'm aware of everything that happens. Early in that second game, Joel is killed. And sure enough, early in the second season, Joel is killed. And it just like in the video game and in the TV show, it's devastating to Ellie when this happens, and she vows revenge, and I won't go into more details because there's still more spoilers, so I'm just going to leave it at that. So they're doing that, and I was a little disappointed, but also really happy. I mean, I was very excited that the show, especially for people who aren't familiar with the video game or what's happening in the video game, will probably jaw on the floor, sort of shocked at how fast what seemingly is a lead character, if not the lead character, I guess Ellie is kind of technically the lead, would be killed off, I actually kind of think back to the episode of Farscape called Daimi Dichotomy, and recently one of my favorite reactors, funny little gal, just saw that, and she was just a wreck when she thought that Aaron had passed away. And sorry, spoilers for Farscape, but she, we know that the next season she comes back. That isn't going to happen for Joel, first of all. I'm sure that they're probably going to have the actor in some flashbacks or memories or things to that regard for Ellie, I imagine. You don't waste Pedro Pascal on just 2 seasons and say goodbye. So I'm sure he's going to appear, but he won't be back as a living Joel. So I'm happy for people who weren't expecting it to see what their reactions are, and I enjoyed seeing some reactions. unfortunately, most of the reactors I've been watching are aware of the video game. So, yeah, and even though they were aware of the video game, they still had a great emotional reaction to it. So it's done a little differently than it is in the video game, but not that much differently. But like we said in the quick reviews, the first episode was a bit slow for me. And I was going to be sad if all we could talk about was the first episode, because all I would have to say would be, it's okay, sort of a reaction to the first episode, because it was very slow and just kind of rebuilt the universe for us and reminded us of where they were, showed us where the new relationship between Ellie and Joel was, and how heartbreaking is that for her to see essentially her, for lack of a better word, adoptive father, stepfather, whatever you want to call him, killed in front of her after basically giving him the cold shoulder for what seems like many, many months, if not longer, by the time we catch up with him 5 years after the events of the first season. But that first season was a bit of a build, but the second episode was nonstop. We had, crazy infected running after everybody and attacking the town and breaking through. And it's just at points you didn't know who was going to live and who was going to die, right? A lot of people, including people who know the game spoilers, thought, are they going to kill off Joel's brother? Because they don't kill him off at this point in the game. And I'm not going to say if they ever kill him off, but there was a big shock to everybody that he might have died back in that back alley where he was cornered. So I thought that they did a good job of keeping the tension high about who would make it and who didn't. And apparently those who have played the video games, again, I've watched all the cutscenes and seen the summaries of the video games, but of the second one. But they were all super excited when they let the dogs loose, because apparently that's something that's a big mechanic in the game. But usually on the other side, you're usually terrified of the dogs, as opposed to them being on your side. So I thought that was a really cool twist. And a lot of the people I've seen who are familiar with the video games have said they enjoy some of the changes that the show has made. Little changes here and there. The therapy for Joel and the therapist, that was new. Things of that nature. And also seeing at the beginning of the first episode the scene where Abby talks about the death of her father and her plans for vengeance and all that. That wasn't in the game at all. At that point, at least, it wasn't in the game. So they made little changes, and that gave me hope when I heard them talking about that after the first episode. It's like, oh, well, maybe they'll change this. Maybe Joel's just going to be like crippled or something. Maybe, he's going to be maimed, or they won't kill him. But no, they killed him. And I suppose that's going to be in order to create the sort of story that they want for Ellie and Dina moving forward. I guess that had to happen. So I'm kind of curious what you two, who aren't familiar with the video games, thought of these two episodes and what happened in episode 2.
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, I have not played the game and was not familiar with anything that happened in it. When I watched season 1, I think I came to it a couple of episodes later than both of you and many of our listeners, and enjoyed it. So first episode, as you pointed out, was really slow. And I was like, wow, I hope it's going to pick up, because especially when I looked and saw there were only 7 episodes in this season. I'm like, wow, you took a whole episode. I mean, I know you got a table set. I know it's the first episode of a new season, but wow, that was pretty boring. So talk about changing, ratcheting it up. That was quite a bit of change, but also, and this was another idea for a Tuner Minute we probably touched on at some point, much like with The Walking Dead and other apocalypse type shows, where you're watching the average folks just trying to survive, it's hard to maintain that over the course of seasons. You either got to go edge of your seat for the entire episode, or it's, shall we say, the much more mundane part of reestablishing a society and what goes in it. So this second episode, certainly leading up to, Joel's death, even before that, was quite exciting and harrowing for all the reasons you mentioned. And great to see done. I mean, and well done from an acting and a shooting it and what's going to happen and everything was great. I mean, I had no idea. Again, just assuming lead character's going to have a bit of plot armor when they had the bad luck of getting him, shall we say, kidnapped or captured. And she starts beating on him, and I'm much like you said, Brent. I'm like, wow, he's going to be on crutches for most of the season, huh? I'm like, nope, not even on the crutches. He's going to be on the ground. So it was definitely a wow, they went there. But yeah, what it could mean for the other characters now, I'm certainly much more interested. Got to admit it. I'm going to miss seeing a great actor, except maybe for an occasional flashback. But I think it's going to give the other characters and the actors there a chance to really shine and to see what it's going to mean. So good on them. They certainly got me more interested.
Yeah, I was surprised it was 5 years later when it started up. I was expecting it was going to be more like 6 months to a year, maybe 2 years. I really liked how we saw, Jackson Hole is definitely up and running. Across the 2 episodes, we really saw how evolved, all of their methods were for, being prepared and how, Ellie sort of chafed at the rules. Dinah does too. They're kind of, snotty teenagers in a lot of ways. And I wasn't surprised the first episode was that table setting of everybody. I could not remember who most of the people were. I recognized the actor who played Tara on True Blood, who's kind of the mayor, and Joel's brother. Those were kind of the only people I recalled from season 1, besides Ellie and Joel. And, the infecteds are different. When Ellie finds out that one of them was sort of hunting her, the strain and the relationship between her and Joel, that was all interesting, but slow, but it was okay. I did not expect the second episode to sort of go that fast with resolving Joel in terms of the Fireflies finding him and killing him. I'm going to be very curious how we actually get the reveal about, was Ellie's estrangement from Joel just, being a teenager, or at the end of season 1, it sure looked like she didn't believe him, that he hadn't done anything in Salt Lake City, and if she knew all along or suspected all along. I'm going to be very curious how we either hear her say that she knew Joel did something, or she's going to learn it somehow. Because that feels very unresolved. Joel was going to a therapist, but he never admitted what he did to the therapist. And I'm going to be curious if there's something Ellie finds in his effects, or how, what that's going to play out like. So I know Joel's dead, but I definitely expect to see, at least in the next episode, which will be sort of the funeral one, if we get flashbacks or Ellie talking to him from beyond or something. I'm expecting we'll see Pedro Pascal occasionally, but that whole scene though was crazy. That it was kind of a little bit super convenient that the first people Abby runs into is the guy she's looking to kill. The actor who is playing Abby is really menacing. And it's interesting because we definitely can relate to her wanting revenge for what happened to her father. But she's kind of unhinged. She's definitely, maliciously sadistic when she's torturing Joel. Her crew is definitely uncomfortable with her methods as well. So that was all some very intriguing dynamics and tension for when we go forward. And I was thinking, Ellie will get there in time, right? Because, she was torturing him. So it was just so sad because, she's watching basically her father get killed, and I thought they did a good job of not explaining to anybody what is going on, right? So it'll be interesting to hear Dinah, I always forget which way her name's pronounced, shares, because she heard everything before she was knocked out. So she's going to know who these people are, and I'm sure she'll be helping Ellie go hunt them down and kill them, which I definitely think she will be doing. The other thing I liked was some of the other townspeople, and I'm forgetting the guy's name, but it's like Dinah's ex, the guy that Ellie was with. I like that character a lot. There was good sort of chemistry between him and Ellie, as they're bantering back and forth. They also made it plausible that, Joel wasn't suspicious of her because they were in the middle of this high anxiety attack when they first meet. So Joel's very experienced. He would have otherwise probably been more on high alert in other circumstances. I also liked that we had sort of the two storylines going on, so that the town's under attack, and that was crazy. With one, it kind of reminded me of like the two towers and even Hardhome in Game of Thrones, where, you're having a siege essentially. But I really liked all their strategies that they had, and when they fell back, and then that one giant, I think they call them bloaters, the giant thing that eventually Tommy was able to torch. So there was just a lot going on in that second episode. I'm kind of expecting the next episode to be a lot more muted, because it's going to be this funeral, and probably figuring out what they can rebuild, because the fire and the breach in the fence and stuff will definitely be bigger problems we'll have to deal with. But they just lost a whole bunch of people. So, Joel was talking about, we can't take on any more people. Maybe they will be able to if they get there. But I did like sort of the evolution that we saw and how things have changed in terms of the infected and what they're doing besides the human stories.
With all that happened in episode 2, I wouldn't be surprised if episode 3 has some funeral stuff, but also gets right into the action again. So they only have 7 episodes. I don't know how much Dinah actually heard. I need to go back and rewatch it. I thought she got knocked out before Abby explained exactly who she was and why she was going to kill Joel. But I agree with you that Ellie needs to find out, and it might be a journal. For all we know, Joel kept a journal or something, because the lie, the thing that I think Ellie rebelled because, one, she is a teenager, 19, just like the therapist said, but also because I think she always knew that he probably was lying to her when she asked the question, basically, are you telling the truth about the story of how the doctors couldn't use her? So he just took her out, took her home. She kind of knew something else was going on there, so that was probably eating at her too. So I'm with you that she needs to find out, and how she does it, I don't know. Is there a journal, or did Dinah hear some of it? I don't know, or what have you. Or does she find out as she starts hunting them down one by one, like she said she was going to do? Does she start learning more of the details, and does that change how she's going to deal with Abby, who I suspect they're going to structure the either the end of the season or next season with her confrontation of Abby as probably the final one. It kind of feels like a Western, to me, hunting down the guys who'd done you wrong or killed your paw or something. Well, in this case, did kill her paw. So I'm right there with you. I don't know how it's going to go down, and I'm on board for the ride. So it is interesting that a lot of the people who are commenting on the show, you talked about how Abby was menacing, and in the video game, Abby was portrayed as taller than Ellie, stocky, muscular, and so that is why she was even more intimidating, and why she literally beat Joel to death in the video game, which she didn't quite do here. She did beat on him a lot, but she ended up killing him with, sticking something in his neck. Whereas in the video game, she literally beat him to death, cracked his skull open, and basically killed him that way. But yeah, it's a different casting. People are talking about the casting, but I think they did a pretty good job. I think they cast the Abby actor to be very similar to Ellie in size and stature, just to draw that parallel about, the deaths of their fathers sort of thing, inspiring them.
Yeah, like I said, from the end of season 1, I thought that Ellie knew Joel had lied to her. But then when this started, when this season started up, I was like, well, maybe she does, but she's just harboring it as a grudge, or she's let it fester into something else. Joel has always been a cagey sort of character, and then when the therapist was like, what did you do? And all he said was, I saved her. It was like, oh, is this never going to come out, or it's going to take a really long time for it to come out? So I'm going to be curious about that. The other thing was, at the end of the episode, when you got the post-show 10 minutes of comments, when I listened to those comments, it was very clear to me that the showrunners knew that Joel had to die because him dying is going to be, an event that propels many of the other characters, not just Ellie. So I was like, yep, that's going to stick. That's not going to change. There was this is a nitpick. There were people asking, how did we lose the horses? And would you actually have left those horses behind? Because they had more horses. And I was like, where did one of the extra horses go? That, it was very sad to see them dragging his body, but it was like, didn't we have another horse? Couldn't we have done something?
That's a good point. We had 4, if you count them, 4
exactly.
horses. And then we left with 2. Oh, I bet you the other one, well, we didn't see them take the horses. We saw them walking away. Huh. A good question. Kevin, are you curious what happened to the horses, or do you want to move on?
I hadn't given any thought to the horses. No.
I guess that means he wants to move on. All right. Well, let's move on. And Kevin's going to lead the discussion of the Wheel of Time.
Yes, we are focusing on the last 2 episodes of season 3. But, the season as a whole, I think we very much, shall we say, leveled up from the quality of the story, the interactions, the growth of our characters. Again, based on a 15 or so book series, it makes sense. You got to give the characters a chance for us to find out who they are and the positions they're going to be in. So I thought we finished very, very strong in this season. The 2 episodes we've got here to touch on, the first one was, very much the Perrin focused one. The battle, in the 2 rivers. And all there I thought was very well set up and very well done. Great to see him grow as a character, to realize that even though he doesn't see himself as a leader, he very much is, and he does it through actions, and kind of comes into it as the time comes, and we got a chance to see the other characters learn to take care of what they had to do, and all. So, I mean, it was very well done. The sacrifice that Loyal had to make to protect them in the ways, basically, preventing, the reinforcements from getting there, but having to sacrifice himself to do it, again, was something not in the books at this point at all. So it was a shocker for a lot of folks, viewers, certainly. So that was, I thought, very well done. And then leading into the final episode with Rand being seen in the, in the eyes of the Aiel as our Karan and as powerful as he is, played out really well. I mean, the Rand Moraine stuff was wonderful. How Egwene has been by his side, but no longer with him, obviously based on what she found out with Lanfear. But then Rand standing up to Lanfear and that leading to the showdown with Moraine at the end was pretty epic stuff. And worked this all in with everything going on with Leandrin and Mo Gideon. I mean, this is a classic story where you've got so many main characters, as I've seen from some folks who do reactions and recaps and such. Obviously, with a long book series, you can go into characters' heads for an entire book, which can't be done in a TV show. So it's hard to bring some of that out. So the choices they've made of how to keep the story moving on the TV side, I think, have been excellent. I've certainly been very much engaged. I mean, losing Swan as the Amberlin seat with what went on and the treachery there, and its impact on Moraine was really something. Again, another item that didn't happen in the books apparently, but as folks have pointed out, which another example of the reality of the business of making things this expensive is, in a book series, you can keep, a dozen main characters going for many, many years. You can't do that in a TV show. It's too expensive. So to give a main character a chance to go out in an epic way definitely is what happened here, and its impact it's going to have on Moraine. We'll get to see that going forward. So I thought they played it well. And a lot of the other characters on the secondary side, I mean, it was really just epic to see. They got a lot of stuff with Elaine and Tom Maryland, Alana, being there to take arrows left and right in a few of these episodes, but still be out in front to protect people and to be cultivating many of the other channelers. Really just some epic stuff to enjoy all around in many directions. Nynaeve is a favorite character of mine. Seeing her finally break through her block of being able to use the one power in a totally epic way was wonderful. So just some really, really good stuff and lots of directions. As of this point, the show has not been renewed for another season yet. It is obviously one of the most expensive things Amazon's ever done, certainly next to Lord of the Rings. But I think from a story point of view and an engagement, this is just top-notch stuff for me, very much so. So I'm really hoping we get some news on that fairly soon, because I'm looking forward to rewatching all of season 3, because I think they did just a bang-up job with it.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think season 3 really did level up another notch, which we would expect because all the characters are coming into their powers, and it's been really awesome. At first, when I realized that the Two Rivers episode was only going to be the Two Rivers, I was like, am I going to like this or not? But it was great because, as you mentioned, we really see Perrin, yellow eyes, golden eyes step up. I loved that we had Loal go through the gate to stop anybody from coming through, and leaving behind the book for Perrin. That was so poignant. And the two warriors who stayed by the gate to, protect him. I love that. And then at the end, when Perrin turns himself over to the White Cloaks and sort of goes back to the idea of the way of the leaf, the other guy who now has killed someone, so he can't go with the leaf people. He's going to be staying back in the Two Rivers. I really enjoyed that as a, fully standalone story almost by itself. I'm also going to be curious if we ever get any more payoff about, what is it about the Two Rivers that has so many of these people with amazing powers coming out of it. And then in the finale, my only thing about the finale is there was like almost too much going on. Because at the point in which Matt goes through the portal and we had seen I'm forgetting her name, the Aja who, the Red Aja who takes over the Amberlin seat, she had gone through a portal like that, and we have the maybe I just forgot the whole mythology about that was it called the Aelfin or the Eelfin? There's kind of two of them. And Matt getting pulled through there was like, what is, I was very confused about that stuff. It was like, do I know this already? Do I know what's happening? Because I had no idea. And, he's yelling about what is going on now. But that seemed to all happen really fast and seems a little bit dire in terms of what it means for him. So all of the memories that were driving him crazy from blowing the horn, now he might not remember things that we need him to remember. You talked about Rand, who really comes into his own in this episode. He had that great talk with Moraine, and he acknowledges that she's really been the only one who has been with him ever since the Two Rivers and has really backed him. And then when they actually get to, I'll call it the big meetup, and Lanfear has put in a ringer. And I thought that was really well played because, he's persuasive when he's talking about, what's the actual prophecy? The prophecy is that it's a Wetlander who came. And then when he actually uses his powers and we have that, that fear of, is he going to become a mad king? And Egwene looking at him like, am I going to have to put you down? And I also really liked in the beginning of the episode when he and Egwene go into the dream world and lure Lanfear out and then are able to, kind of basically sever the tie with her or try to. It was really gross what Mogadine, I'm forgetting her name, pronouncing it correctly, when she killed the other Forsaken and had everything all strung up out of him. It's really, really nasty. But I really did love how she had been luring along her, quote, mistress and seeing what that alliance might turn out to be. And then you talked a bit about Swan and how she got played and killed, but she had an amazing exit speech going out. She's like, I'm still myself. I'm still true to myself. It was really, really beautifully played. And it sets up a whole new White Tower dynamic because all along we've been thinking that, the White Tower was going to be helping and now they're not. And then you talked a little bit about Nynaeve tapping into her powers. That was really cool. I liked how they brought it back to her time in the other world and having that other life with a child. That was part of what, enabled her to finally tap into her one powers as well. And then hopefully, is it Alana, will be able to remember the Forsaken. That was cool. But again, it was sort of like kind of too much. I was like, who's this guy? And maybe we met him back some time ago, but I didn't remember him. So when he's like, oh, I've been watching over you for your mother, and I know that this person doesn't exist. It just felt like a lot. There was definitely a lot of plot in this episode, but very satisfying. And like I said, the end with, Rand tapping into his powers and, his proof of his validity as the Carl Karan, it wasn't to destroy something. It was to bring rain. So I really liked that as well. It was it was not what I was expecting. So, really strong season overall, and definitely hoping that we're going to hear about a renewal very soon.
Yeah, this is a show where, as I was talking a little bit in the Tuner Minute idea, that to grasp some of those items you mentioned not being sure of is where viewing some of the reactors who've read the books, who can kind of fill in some of that or point you to some resources, makes it a richer experience for me. But we're now into that situation, as I said in the Tuner Minute, where if you're only watching the show, you are missing things. But again, you can't adapt a 15-book series into a few seasons and not do that. That's the delicate balance that's hard to do. And you have so many of those things happening as you get to whether it's a single episode or even in the course of a couple of episode bits. So it's a challenge to be able to grasp it in a good way, at least. At least it's not fumbling and not doing a good job at it, too. Because I suspect you enjoyed this as well, Wendy. I didn't even mention another cool part about that parent-focused episode is I've loved to watch his relationship with Vail develop. And, he's always being parent, trying to tell her he wants her to leave before the battle, and he's trying to protect her, and she's as good a fighter as anybody. But when he finally gets to that point to have the battle start, then he tries to tell her to stay behind him, and she's already going to tell him that's not who she is. And he says, "Oh no, I want you behind me to, catch any of the Trollocs I miss." I mean, that was a great way of them understanding each other.
Oh yeah, no, I love that relationship. They have a great dynamic. It really felt like a big part of Perrin's, healing journey was, to be able to get past how his wife died and be able to be open up to somebody new. And she's very different from the wife that I recall in season 1. So I really like that as well.
All right. Well, I guess that lets us move on now to Doctor Who. And we did have the return of season 2, Disney Plus timeline numbering, of 2 episodes. We had the Robot Revolution and Lux. And I kind of gave them both watch it soon-ish, I believe, because the Robot Revolution to me, both Doctor Who and the people who are like Who culture, we were real fans of the show and are aware of the ins and outs, kind of blame this on the fact that the episodes have shorter run times now than they used to have. But they're suffering from rush-itis. They're just rushing through the story and through the plot. And one of the problems I had with this one was kind of a nitpick almost, but it's a problem that's indicative of the problems we're having with the show, and that is that there's a scene in the first episode where the doctor, the woman we meet on this planet, it gets killed, and the doctor is destroyed. He cries. He's just shattered because he cares so much for this woman. But as a viewer, I'm like, I don't know anything about this woman or your connection to her. I'm not feeling what you're feeling. I really wish, that the show would just spend a little more time doing that. They did that last season too. They've done that a few times in this new Disney Plus era, where they just don't spend enough time on the show or on a particular element where that they really want me to pay attention to as a viewer or me to care about. And they've done it successfully in the past. There was that episode where the doctor had to spend like a year with this hotel manager, and we got to see some of that. So I actually felt that they had a bond because I witnessed some of it. But like I said, it's kind of a nitpick, but it's also indicative of the rushing through that they have with Doctor Who right now. The Robot Revolution story was okay. I mean, it was Doctor Who. I didn't think anything earth-shattering about it, nor did I think it was horrible. It was just okay. Lux. I liked Lux a lot. I liked how it was building up. I thought this was really dangerous. I felt that the doctor and our companion were in danger. It felt like old Doctor Who to me. And then at the end, it just kind of like fizzled out. Just like, we're done. We ran out of time with the whole resolution of, well, just expose him to the sun. And that'll solve everything. He'll just go become part of the universe like he was already. And he's no longer a threat. And yay, everybody, let's have fun. So I don't know. 2 also was not great. Wasn't horrible, but just was kind of so-so, which is why I gave them both kind of a watch it soon rating. But I don't know. What do you guys think?
I kind of I follow where you're coming from. The first episode, what I was enjoying mostly in it, and I definitely saw more of it in the second, is I very much like the dynamic now between the Doctor and the new companion. I think it's very much working very quickly for me. No disrespect to previous companions in the last couple of seasons, because I have enjoyed them, but I think they're definitely clicking quicker for me than has in previous seasons for me, for many of them. So that I very much liked. I felt comfortable there. Your points about some of the story bits being thin, especially towards the end of both episodes, was a bit okay. It's not quite as maybe grandiose or epic as I might have enjoyed, but I still enjoyed spending the time with them, especially in the second episode. The doing the whole thing with the animation and the fans who are characters who aren't really alive and therefore they're not going to be there after they leave them, made for some good emotional stuff in there, even though they, kept them towards the end. So it was, for me, while not something I would call classic Doctor Who or, riveting stuff, I'm like, okay, this is a good start to the season for the episodes. I want there to be a little more depth or complexity maybe to them as we get there. But for the first couple, in terms of setting things up and getting these actors and characters to gel, I thought, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I definitely recognize the criticisms that you're bringing up, Brent. I was definitely like, who is the person that we keep talking about is dead? I was like, I don't it's like, I must have missed something, but I didn't bother to go back and watch it. I really do like the chemistry between the Doctor and Belinda. That's been very fun, and it seems like, this very fast connection between them feels legitimate to me. Can't pinpoint why that is, but it works. I was a little bit worried in the start of the premiere about, she's the queen, she's the special bride, she's the most important person in the world. I was like, oh no, this was, Clara was a companion like that, and I didn't like the way they handled it. So I was a little bit nervous about that. I was happy with how they resolved the robot story, though, and that, the robots are actually going to, make amends for what happened, and they're really happy to be free of the bad boyfriend inside the robot. They didn't want to live that way either. So I liked all that. And then the problem of, quote, bouncing off of the day that they're trying to get back to. And I liked the Doctor's approach of using that force manipulator or whatever it was to try to find the right position. It was very obvious that, as soon as Velma sniffed out a mystery, they were going to stay. I love the costumes that they use in this version of Doctor Who. I think that's part of what makes the show so fun and cheerful, even when things are kind of dire. It kind of brings a amount of levity or lightness to the story, even when things are kind of serious. The other thing that's interesting is the old lady who's appeared in both episodes as, a spectator. And even at one point she said, you didn't see me here. Curious about what that's going to turn out to be. If she's going to end up being one of these, quote, demigod nemesis or not. I have to admit, I'm not thrilled about the idea that that's going to be our villains. I kind of prefer some straight up aliens instead. And the animated episode, I actually thought it was very clever how they, made themselves have more dimension by sharing more about their internal life when they were different kinds of animation, and then how they, accelerated the film to then jump out of the film slides and all that. The story of the film projectionist and his wife was very poignant, and I loved how the fans ended up, coming to life too. So there's still things that are very Doctor Who-ish in both of these that were charming and I really enjoyed. It's not quite humming on all cylinders, but it's doing pretty good for me.
All right. Well, I wonder what our listeners think of this. So hop on Discord or send us feedback and let us know what you're thinking about Doctor Who. We're going to close out by talking a bit about Daredevil Born Again. Now, I risk sending Kevin off on a rant like he did in our live show, but we have had the season finale of Daredevil, so I just wanted to touch on that a little bit. And mostly I wanted to touch on the finale and how I enjoyed the finale, but also got very frustrated. I am much more of a Punisher fan than I am a Daredevil fan. And so it kind of upset me how they treated Punisher in the finale. Like when he walks in amongst all the cops and then he starts kicking butt. But in hindsight, I was thinking to myself, that's not what the Punisher would have done. He would have seen how many cops were there. He would have started picking them off from a distance. He wouldn't have bothered going in there and risking getting overpowered, because that's exactly what happened. He goes in there, he's overpowered. He knew he couldn't take them all down. Now, somebody might argue, well, he did that on purpose because he wanted to get on the inside. That's stupid. He has no way of knowing that they're going to keep him alive. So I felt like a little disrespected as a Punisher fan in how they treated the Punisher in this one. But I'm glad in the after credit scene where we get to see that he is absolutely going to escape. Although now I have to also nitpick how absolutely stupid it was to have one guard on duty, and how stupid that guard was to actually shake his hand, even if he's in shackles. He's the Punisher, for God's sake. But the final episode, I wondered at the end of 8 when Matt was shot. My thought was, they've only got one more episode. Are they going to do a time jump? How the heck are they going to do this? And then all of a sudden, Daredevil's got this miraculous. It's not really miraculous. He has this extra healing ability. He wasn't fully healed. Yeah, absolutely, it hurt. Absolutely, there was blood. He was still wounded, but he was shot through the chest. I mean, it was the part of the chest that didn't go into the heart or lungs, but still, or shoulder, wherever he was shot. Seeing the things he did, they had him be in pain and a little bit sloppy because of it. But come on, he shouldn't have been able to even do that after just hours, or maybe a day or so, or whatever it was, after being shot through the shoulder. So there's a little bit of stretching credulity, or whatever you want to call it there. I didn't really believe him. And then how they treated Punisher kind of irritated me. But at the end, I was like, are they not going to wrap this up? And then I thought, oh, of course. They already know they have another season. They had already planned this. This is like a 2-season sort of story arc. So I wasn't going to get a payoff here. And now I'm wondering if we know when the next season of Daredevil's coming out, because I don't want it to be another 2 years before I get this discontinued, because I was glad to see Karen come back. Absolutely kind of tickled a little bit by the exchange between Karen and Matt about heart rates and whether or not it was adrenaline with regard to both her and Matt, and also the way Frank Punisher thought about Karen too, which I thought was kind of interesting, because we knew that there was a caring between the two of them too, but apparently Frank has a little bit more of feelings toward her than he's letting on. So I was great to see Punisher back. I commented back when we had episode 7 that I didn't think we would see him again, and then Kevin shared the trailer that had just dropped right after we had that live chat about Daredevil, and sure enough, he was going to be back. But it was good to see him back. I really wish he'd been able to kill all those cops, and he would have done that. The real Punisher would have done that from a distance. He would have sniped a bunch of them, and then you would have finished off a few more that were left alive. I mean, that's the way the Punisher operates. This whole walking in there and getting overpowered just irritated me. But anyway, guys, what do you think?
Yeah, I was, for those who didn't see the live show or the recording, which I don't tend to do, was definitely on a bit of a rant because Daredevil was just so underwhelming this season for me. And so was this finale for some of the same reasons you mentioned, in that it's a 2-season arc, for sure. And, we only finally got to see the Punisher in action in this episode. We only got Karen back in this episode, really. So it was a general disappointment because it's an origin story. Again, we already went through this. We talked about this on our live show and even some of our previous podcasts, that as viewers, even though we get this whole thing that it was previously Netflix, now it's officially Marvel, and Kevin Feige wants to make sure anything he's in charge of has all the origin stories done properly, and da-da-da-da-da-da. This is where I watched, I think it was Screen Crush and another YouTube video that did an excellent job describing why they did things the way they did this season, and it's all the setup, and it has to do with the business side of this, and yada, yada, yada. So while I understand as a viewer, it was a waste, not the whole season, but a lot of what we did this season, we could have done this in like 3 episodes. So that's disappointing. The fact that I believe they're already shooting the next season, and they're talking about a 2026 air, so it's not going to be, extended, Brent, hopefully, at least from what I read, is good because, again, we've got, the Punisher and Daredevil, and if Karen's there, okay, we've got a strong set to make this work. But, for the season as a whole, as a guy who's not the comics lover or has any of that background, no, it just wasn't that good to me.
I feel your disappointment, Kevin. Even though we had, Daredevil and Punisher team up in this, like their fight in the street, that was really good, but it was very implausible that Matt, he got shot like 2 hours ago. I don't know what's in that red suit, but it must really be, not only protect him, but reconstruct him at the same time. It was very nice to see Karen come back. And I really hope that she isn't just sort of lip service window dressing like she was in this season, in season 2, that it truly is, a new Scooby Gang, I'll call it, like we were hinted at the end of the finale. I do agree, Brent, the choice of Frank, he seemed very hot-headed when he goes off to attack the anti-vigilante goon squad. That didn't seem, it wasn't smart, and he's definitely a smart character. He's lethal. He's not that impulsive. I was curious why Kingpin wanted him, though. So I'll be curious if he is immediately escaping when we see season 2, or if we're ever going to have that sort of Kingpin Punisher kind of a conversation happen. The other thing that I did not really like, or it felt very forced, was in the episode before the finale, the lead up to the mayor's inaugural ball, and they really forced that disconnect between Matt and Heather. That whole relationship just felt forced to me all season long. And now she's going to be, more aligned to Kingpin. She got more aligned to Kingpin after the run-in with the vigilante who tried to kill her. So it just feels very forced in terms of the storyline. One of the things I really liked about the Netflix version of Daredevil and Jessica Jones to some extent, and Luke Cage, was a lot of times the conclusions people would draw were due to either a missed connection or bad timing. It didn't feel like that in this show. And I always felt like that was actually very important to that universe, where it was like, things could have been very different if somebody turned left versus right, or they were 5 minutes early versus 5 minutes late. I didn't have that sense at all in this season. And in the prior Daredevil, Kingpin and Vanessa, that relationship was very interesting to me. There was a lot more humanity in both of the characters that just doesn't seem to be there in this version. They're both just cold and calculating, and it's like, I don't believe they're in love with each other at this point, and I don't care either, which is sad because I was a lot more invested in this character and this story and this universe the first time around. And maybe it is because so much of this does feel like a giant circle that we walked in, which we've already walked this circle before. So maybe it'll all be different in season 2 because we'll finally kind of get going beyond the origin story.
And I couldn't help trying not to pile on. But I couldn't help as we came to the end of this one, and I was disappointed to think back to where they had to reshoot because they were concerned about the early episodes they'd shot, that it wasn't as good as it needed to be or something. Like, oh my goodness, it was worse than this.
Yeah. I again, I don't want to bag on the show. I enjoyed it. I don't think it was a steaming pile of trash, but I don't think it was great either. So kind of how I feel about Doctor Who lately.
Yeah, I guess for me, the difference with Doctor Who is it's just a more fundamentally upbeat show. So
true.
It's tougher when it's a grim world and there isn't more there.
More for you to get excited about, or
to
like, or to be optimistic about,
or even just to connect to. But usually it's characters, right? There's something about the character that's compelling, and because everything that these characters are going through, they've gone through before, so it's just not as compelling for me.
Yeah. And they've had darkness in Marvel superhero shows and movies before, right? I mean, Thanos was kind of dark, what he wanted to do, but they always surrounded it by optimism and hope, and I don't see much of that in this show, so maybe that's part of it. Anyway, I think we're done. We've bashed on Daredevil enough. Kevin may have gotten his fill until next week.
I tried not to. I really did.
Sorry,
I'm usually
Kevin.
The positive guy, but man, maybe because it's also that disappointment. I mean, after what we got, previously on Netflix, I'm like, and the actors. I love the actors that are in this show. They are outstanding when they're on screen. I'm like, I can't wait to get the good stuff, and then it's just not there. So I guess part of it's really more a disappointment for me than trying to sound like I'm bashing it or it's a pile of. It's not. It's just not what it could be.
Yeah, disappointment. You're disappointed.
Yeah,
yep,
it's the hope that kills you.
Yep,
as they said on Ted Lasso.
It's also something said in a warning song. It's a lyric from a warning song. So good job. All right, guys. That's going to do it for this episode. Thanks for being here. And thank you to Kevin and Wendy for tagging along for another recording. I'll catch you next time.
Take care, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. We'll see you soon.
If you'd like to contact us here at Tuning Into Sci-Fi TV, we offer a wide variety of feedback options, including email at feedback@tuningintoscifitv.com, our voicemail at 706-927-8478, on Skype voicemail at Tuning Into Sci-Fi TV, or you can visit our website at tuningintoscifitv.com to find the link to our forums, or to use the SpeakPipe widget to leave us a voice message. You can also find us on Twitter at twitter.com/tuningintosci-fi, or on Facebook at facebook.com/tuningintosci-fi TV.
The theme music for Tuning Into Sci-Fi TV is by Beatnik Turtle, used with permission. You've been listening to Tuning Into Sci-Fi TV, episode 670, recorded April 21st, 2025.